and welcome to the NROL-105 launch webcast. SpaceX's Falcon 9 rocket is currently awaiting liftoff from Vandenberg Space Force Base in California. My name is Tucker Spencer Wallace, and I'm a mission manager here at SpaceX. Today's mission carries a national security payload designed, built, and operated by the National Reconnaissance Office, or NRO. This will be the first of several national security missions on our manifest this year. The range is green, and we are on track for an on-time liftoff at 8:39 p.m. Pacific Time. If, for any reason, we are unable to launch today, a backup opportunity is available tomorrow at 8:04 p.m. Pacific Time. But for now, the weather is good with just a 0% possibility of launch weather constraints. We will not be showing any Stage 2 or deployment views today at the request of our customer. With that, let's meet our Falcon 9 rocket on the pad. The Falcon 9 rocket supporting today's mission is a two-stage rocket designed for the reliable and safe transportation of satellites, cargo, and people. Starting from the very top of the rocket, we have the payload fairing. The fairing is a protective shell that houses all of the payloads, shielding them from the aerodynamic heating until the vehicle is outside the Earth's atmosphere. The shape of the fairing contributes to Falcon 9's overall efficiency, helping to reduce drag during flight. Once in space, the two fairing halves separate and fall back to Earth, where they will be recovered by our recovery vessel to be refurbished and reused on future flights. Both halves of the fairing are flight proven today, with one side flying for its 30th time and the other for the 13th. Right below the fairing is Falcon 9's second stage, which houses a single Merlin vacuum engine, or MVAC engine. Below the second stage is the black carbon fiber inner stage, and inside of that is where the MVAC engine is located. The inner stage connects the two stages and houses the center pusher that allows the first and second stages to separate during flight. Below that we have the first stage, or booster, that is fully loaded with about 1 million pounds of liquid oxygen in RP-1. The first stage supporting today's mission will be making its
RP-1 load is complete.
Second flight today. The first stage makes up the bottom two-thirds of the vehicle and has 9 Merlin M1D engines at the bottom, which generate more than 1.7 million pounds of thrust. About 2.5 minutes into flight, the first stage will separate and make its way back to Earth. Today, the booster is headed back to Landing Zone 4 at Vandenberg Space Force Base. Back to today's mission. Weather is looking favorable for launch, with just a 0% possibility of launch weather constraints. Coming up shortly in the countdown, the Transporter Erector, or TE, will begin to retract from Falcon 9. That is the large trussed structure that you see standing next to the rocket. It is hinged at the base and connected to the launch mount beneath the first stage. First, the clamps around the second stage will open, then the TE will begin to pivot back, slowly swinging away from the rocket. You should see this start to happen in just about 1 minute.
Falcon 9 tanks are pressing for strong back retract.
And you just heard that call out there that we are beginning to press up the tanks to allow for the strong back to retract. You may also hear the TE called the strong back, though the strong back is just one of the components of the overall transporter erector. The TE rolls Falcon 9 out to the pad, raises it vertical, and stays connected through the final seconds. It provides fuel, power, telemetry, and command connections between ground systems and the rocket.
Strong back retract has started.
And as you just heard there, we are moving into strong back retract now. Those clamps at the top help to stabilize the second stage during fueling. They also help to prevent movements during high winds. Once they are fully open, though, the rocket is free at the top. Right now, both stages are nearly fully loaded with about 1 million pounds of propellant. That includes RP-1, a highly refined kerosene, and liquid oxygen chilled to over 300 degrees below zero. Propellant is loaded late in the countdown, which is intentional. Colder propellants are denser, and denser propellants mean more performance out of the same tanks. But before any of that propellant flows, the plumbing and engines need to be chilled down to prevent thermal shock and boil off when the ultra-cold liquid begins to move. You may hear that referred to as engine chill. Our loading wraps in 2 steps. The first stage finishes around T-3 minutes, coming up in just 20 seconds, while the second stage finishes about a minute later. In addition to RP-1 and liquid oxygen, cryogenic helium is loaded onto Falcon 9. Falcon 9's tanks are pressurized using helium, and that helium is chilled to remain compatible with the cryogenic plumbing. During flight, that pressurization helps to force propellant into the engines as the tanks empty. Looking ahead a little bit, at T-minus 60 seconds, Falcon 9 will enter startup. From that point on, the rocket's onboard flight computers...
Stage 1 LOX load is complete.
As you just heard there, we have completed the LOX loading on the first stage. As I was saying, at T-minus 60 seconds, Falcon 9 will enter startup, at which point the rocket's onboard flight computers will take over, and from there on out, the countdown is fully autonomous. Just inside of T-minus 2 seconds, the 9 Merlin-1D engines will ignite, and once they're at full power, Falcon 9 will lift off the pad and begin its climb to orbit. At T-minus 2 minutes and 20 seconds, the range is green, the payload remains healthy, and the rocket is tracking no issues. Coming up shortly should be the completion of Stage 2 liquid oxygen loading.
Stage 2 LOX load is complete.
And we just heard that call out that liquid oxygen for the second stage is now fully loaded, completing propellant load for the upper stage. You've probably noticed that there are now white clouds beginning to vent from the rocket. When oxygen is vented from the vehicle, it hits the warmer
ground gas closeouts
outside air, and it instantly condenses into clouds. It's the same principle as your breath on a cold morning, just on a significantly larger scale. Weather continues to be green for our scheduled liftoff at 8:39 p.m. Pacific time. As you just heard, the gas closeout has started, which refers to the venting and closing out of gaseous systems, such as topping off tanks and sealing vents to maintain pressure. Standing by now for confirmation that Falcon 9
is in startup.
As you just heard, Falcon 9 is now in startup. At this point, the autonomous flight computers have taken over the launch countdown, and stages 1 and 2 are pressurizing for launch.
LD is go for launch.
We just heard the launch director give the final go. Now let's listen in to the final seconds of the countdown.
T-minus 30 seconds. T-minus 15 seconds. T-minus 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Ignition. And liftoff of Falcon 9. Go SpaceX, go NROL-105.
Falcon is pitching downrange.
M1D chamber pressures are nominal.
At T plus 33 seconds and counting, Falcon 9 has lifted off from Vandenberg Space Force Base in California. In just a few seconds, we'll throttle the engines down in preparation for Max Q, which stands for Maximum Dynamic Pressure.
Power and telemetry nominal.
It's the moment in the launch where the vehicle experiences the greatest mechanical stresses,
Vehicle is supersonic.
the most that it will see during its ascent. To help go from vertical to horizontal, the first stage will be performing a maneuver known as a gravity.
Q.
And there's Max Q. Falcon 9 has just passed through Max Q. The rocket typically needs to go 17,500 miles per hour horizontally in order to avoid being pulled back to Earth.
MVAC chill.
And get into orbit. As you just heard, we're chilling the MVAC engines in preparation for stage separation. So we now have several events coming up in quick succession, and we should hear all of them called out by Mission Control, starting with main engine cutoff, or MECO, then stage separation, stage 1 flip, SES-1, and the boost back burn. MECO is where we shut down all 9 M1D engines on the first stage. Stage separation is where the first and second stages of Falcon separate from one another. Stage 1 flip is when the booster uses its nitrogen gas thrusters to flip the booster around. Depending on the mission, Falcon may perform a fast or slow flip. Today, the booster will perform a fast flip because it will be returning to land.
MECO.
Stage separation confirmed.
I'm back startup.
Stage 1 boost back startup.
And confirmation for that series of events, which again were MECO, stage separation, stage 1 flip, SES-1, and the boost back burn. Coming up next will be fairing separation in about 30 seconds. The fairing will jettison from the second stage, as it is no longer needed to protect the payload once we are in space. As mentioned earlier, we will be attempting to retrieve these fairing halves once they fall back to Earth. We should be hearing that call out any second now.
Fairing separation confirmed.
And there's that good call out for fairing separation.
Boost back shutdown.
And there you just heard the shutdown of that boost back burn. We're now 3 minutes and 30 seconds into today's mission, and the next major milestone is coming up at T plus 6 minutes, when you should see the first stage's entry burn on your screen. To start the entry burn, we will relight 3 M1D engines on the first stage, starting with the center engine, known as E9, followed shortly after by the E1 and E5 engines. The booster engine graphic on the lower left-hand corner of the screen displays the arrangement of the 9 M1D engines, with an outer ring of 8 and the center 9th engine. These are held in place on the vehicle by a structure called the octaweb, and 3 will light up during the incoming entry burn. The entry burn is similar to pumping the brakes to slow down the vehicle as it passes back into the Earth's atmosphere. We need to do this to slow down and reduce the re-entry forces, which then helps us recover and reuse the first stage. During the entry burn, Falcon 9 is decelerating by firing its Merlin engines, but the vehicle is still moving quite fast. This causes it to fly through Merlin's exhaust engines, also known as the rocket's plume, which deposits a layer of soot on the vehicle's surface. That soot comes from the carbon-based fuel, RP-1, that Falcon 9 uses. With each flight, that layer of soot builds up a little bit more on the surface of the vehicle, and that's why our flight-proven vehicles look the way that they do. We are just under a minute away from the beginning of the entry burn. On the left side of your screen, you can see the first stage decelerating and making its way back to Earth. The first stage is not only using the Merlin engines during re-entry and landing process, it also uses its titanium grid fins and nitrogen gas thrusters for stability and control. Again, Falcon 9 will be attempting to re-land today at Landing Zone 4 at Vandenberg Space Force Base. And again, at the request of our customer, we will not be displaying views of Stage 2 today. We are roughly 15 seconds away from the beginning of the entry burn. As a reminder, Falcon 9 will relight just 3 of the 9 M1D engines for this brief entry burn.
Stage 1 entry burn startup.
And you can see on your screen there that we have begun the entry burn for the Falcon 9 first stage. This burn is set to last about 15 seconds and is slowing down the vehicle in preparation for its final burn and landing.
Entry burn shutdown.
And there we've just finished the entry burn. With the completion of the Falcon 9 first stage entry burn here, coming up next will be the first stage landing burn, which will start about 1 minute from now. The Merlins on Falcon's first stage are optimized for sea level, and these achieve 190,000 pounds of thrust during ascent and descent. They provide the initial power to lift Falcon 9 out of the lower, thicker parts of Earth's atmosphere. In comparison, the single MVAC engine on the second stage has a
Stage 1 FTS has safed.
has a much wider nozzle and is
Stage 1
optimized.
transonic.
As you just heard, we've passed through the sound barrier. Coming up next in just a couple of seconds, we'll have the start of the landing burn for the first stage. The landing burn is the final burn of the Falcon 9 booster.
Stage 1 landing burn.
And you just heard, and you can now see on your screens, we've begun the landing burn. This is the final burn that this vehicle will see before safely touching down back at Landing Zone 4 at Vandenberg Space Force Base.
Landing leg deploy. Stage 1 landing confirmed.
And as you just heard on your screen, we have successfully landed. This was our 560th booster landing for SpaceX. This is also the second launch and landing for this first stage. This mission also represents a significant milestone for SpaceX, as it is targeted to be the 600th overall completed mission of a Falcon vehicle. As a reminder, we will not be showing any Stage 2 or deployment views at the request of our customer. So with that landing of our Falcon 9, we'll be bringing the webcast to a close. We'd like to thank the National Reconnaissance Office for entrusting us with today's mission. And we'd also like to thank the Range and FAA for their support. If you're interested in more launch coverage, as you just heard there, Stage 2 MVAC has shut down. As I was mentioning, if you're interested in more launch coverage, head over to spacex.com/launches for the most up-to-date information. While you're there, check out our departure board with all the details about our upcoming missions. And remember to follow us at SpaceX on X for more updates. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.